welcome everyone back to the Love Means Business podcast, where we explore love, learning, leveling up with amazing guests like who I have today with me, Cara Truitt, who I have been looking forward to talking to you. It seems like forever. It seems like this has been something we've been wanting to do. Has it been over a year?
Yeah, I remember when you started the podcast and we started talking about it then. And, life just aligns when it aligns. And I'm so excited that we finally made it.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking all about connection. That's really one of the main things with you and I. We're both speakers. We both love fostering community. We're always out and about. I always see you everywhere too. I think that's so funny. We're like always like ships passing each other. And I'm lucky if we can get like a hug,
Yeah.
at an event. So this is also just amazing to be able to have this one-on-one time to really connect and talk about everything you've got going on. So let me do a little intro about all things Cara. So
Okay.
she helps teams and leaders cultivate cultures of connection, clarity, and confidence. She is a TEDx producer and coach, keynote speaker, corporate workshop facilitator, and was named one of the top 50 women to know in North Carolina. She is also the founder and executive producer of TEDx Sugar Creek Women, and that's coming up again. When is the next one?
March 28th,
My
season two.
gosh,
Yep. We're
so
excited.
exciting. She's the host of the Charlotte Mic Drop Club and education director for NAWBO Charlotte. Cara is deeply committed to amplifying voices and ideas, especially for women. So welcome to the podcast today. Are you
Thank you
ready to
so
dive
much.
in? All right. So you've worn many hats. You still wear many hats. Let's be
Yes.
serious here.
Yes.
Entrepreneur, producer, coach, community leader, and that's just talking about business. You're also a mom, wife, all the things. When you look back, what's the kind of through line that connects all of your work?
I mean, it's really all about connection, not to oversimplify it, but it is. It's really about creating spaces and stages where people can come together and connect. And that's really what I'm all about when you look at it at its most simple, high level place.
I feel like you're so amazing at building that connection just like instantly with people. I know with me and you, the first time I met you was at TEDx Main Street when I was speaking. And I remember just after that experience feeling like a connection with you. And one of the ways I feel like you do that with people, at least with me, was connecting through shared experiences, shared stories. So talk to me a little bit about that. How does that play a part in a lot of the things that you do?
Yeah, and it's interesting because your talk specifically, I remember very vividly your TEDx talk. I was volunteering at the event. I was actually taking photos of you while you were giving your talk. And it was very inspiring to me because we have very similar background stories. And I remember sitting there thinking how proud I was of you to get up there and
Thank
tell your
you.
story in the way that you did. And it was really a motivation for me to step it up in the level of how I can help other women to do the same. And that day was really a turning point for me. And it was the day I decided to launch TEDx Sugar Creek Women. So you played a part
Wow.
in that. Yeah.
Wow. I don't want to take the credit for that, but okay, I'll take a little bit of it. That's amazing. And
Well,
it
it's
is
a big deal. It's a
interesting.
big deal for women to get up
Yeah.
there and tell their stories. And, that had such a huge impact on me because that's really what allowed me to step into my voice years ago when I was in an abusive situation and I was trying to find my way and find my voice. And it was really hearing other women and their experiences and specifically on stages,
Yeah.
hearing them tell their stories that really helped me back in my 20s when I was trying to, improve my situation that, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can make, a different life. I can choose, to put myself first and learn how to take care of myself in a new way. And so that, it isn't to be undermined, the power of a woman standing on stage and telling her story. And I always say to my speakers, when you're on stage, think about the one woman in that audience that is going to change her life because of what you're doing, or the one woman that's going to be inspired then to tell her story. And because it is really powerful. And in storytelling and speaking, it's how we connect. It's how we relate to one another, and we gain confidence from other people's stories. So it's really important work.
I completely agree, and it's sometimes so scary to share those stories and to also feel like it's okay to do that as a professional.
Mhm.
I know that was something that I always kind of shied away from until I did that TEDx talk, and that really opened up my mind and just, I don't know, gave me the courage to do it more because I realized, wow, you can still be professional and be extremely vulnerable.
Well, and it's one of the reasons I love this podcast, because we really get into talking about how our experiences in life,
Mhm.
and love, and love as a dichotomy, and all of those things. Those experiences are what often motivate us to do the actual businesses and the work that we
Absolutely.
do.
Yes.
Most entrepreneurs that I know and that are doing mission based work or something that they're passionate about, it's because of those experiences and because of those stories that they want to help other people with what they have gone through.
Yes, absolutely. You told what I was about to say beautifully. So you segued beautifully into what I was going to talk about next. And that is really the heart of this podcast, which is blending love, leadership, business, all of those things together. And I'm so passionate about that. I did that with my first business and proved to myself that you can be financially successful too and do that. But then also with the speaking, it's every day seeing people be touched with these amazing stories and seeing people that are truly living their passion through what they're doing. It's so incredibly inspiring, and doing this podcast is another huge motivating factor for me. It lights a fire under my ass. I swear every day I talk to the people on here and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they're amazing." So when we talk about love and how it influences leadership, we're really talking about that personal passion influencing our professional lives. How does that work with you? Like, how has love really played a part in your leadership style? How has your personal life really influenced you professionally?
Mm. One of the things that I try to do, and the way I feel that I lead with love, is to really invite my team and the spaces that I'm creating for people to come as they are and really invite in a sense of authenticity. I think when people know that they can show up, that they are enough just as they are, and that they are welcome as they are, that alone really just creates an environment where people feel like they can exhale. And that is really what I want to do, is create spaces where people can come as they are and then leave as more of who they are. And meaning that they are in a space where they are enough as they are, but they also have room to grow. They also have room for transformation, and they also have room to step into whatever that next highest version of themselves is. So really just creating spaces where everyone's voice is welcome, everyone's voice is, able to be heard, and know that, it's a safer space for them to show up as they are, because the truth is we spend most of our time with the people that we work with. And so if we are restricting ourselves in our authenticity at work, then we're spending most of our life not being authentic. And so that is one of the things that, for me, going back in my story, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, where I started being a community builder. That's really what I found in community that changed something for me. And so I try to really create that for other people too.
Was there a certain moment or season of your life that really did instill this resilience or teach you this ability to bring people together? I know you shared some of that with me, some of the things that have really made you who you are, but was there a specific story that you
Yeah,
want to
and
share
I
today
was just thinking
about
of
that?
it just then. So back in, some people might have heard me tell this story before if they've heard me on other podcasts, because it was a really kind of pivotal moment for me, which was in 2011, and I was going through a divorce. I had just left an abusive relationship, which in itself is, as you know, is like very transformative to be able
Yeah.
to step out and do that, leave what feels familiar and step into something better for yourself. And so during that time, I was really struggling, with mental health, and I was very lonely. And I was going through a divorce. I was going through bankruptcy. And then my sister passed away all in the course of 1 week.
Man.
And so really I went into a very dark period after that. And when I stepped into a community, it was a yoga studio here in Charlotte called B Yoga. It was the first time that I really found a place where I could, as I said, exhale, a place,
Mhm.
and less from the sense of just, practicing yoga, which involves a lot of inhaling and exhaling, but just
Yes.
that my entire being could just exhale. In fact, the place was called Be Yoga. And I was like, oh, that sounds nice. I just need somewhere I can just be. That is truly what I found there. And that actually ended up becoming a new trajectory for my entire life because I
Wow.
started working there. I became their business manager. I became their director of operations. I ran 2 locations in Charlotte. And after a few years, they actually sold the business to me. And that place truly was like a second home, like a second family. And I ended up buying the studio that essentially saved my life. So it was
Wow.
really a turning point that allowed me to really step into leadership in the community space in a new way. And it was 6 months before the pandemic. So we had quite a journey following that.
Yeah. Wow. It's so interesting, a lot of the different incredible leaders and things that I talked to on here, and even with my story, how this support system, whether it's a community where you work or friends or family or whatever, everyone needs people to get through that season of life. And I think for me, it really taught me that it doesn't matter if you're related to them. Like, you create your own family. You create your own people that are gonna be that just, unconditional love and support for you. And it sounds like you found some of that within that community. Talk to me kind of how that has also maybe inspired you to be that for other people.
Yeah. Stepping into leadership in that role right before the pandemic really gave me an opportunity to take this community that I was stewarding, that someone else had actually built, and find my way of leading with love through that next season, which was huge. We had to completely change the entire business model. We went online, we went outdoors. It became a global online collective, but what it ended up becoming is a lifeline. And I knew how much of a lifeline that it was for me
Yeah.
in my past. And I knew that during that time, there was no way we were going to just close because we needed community more than ever. And so, that's really what inspired me to keep it going. And I have so many stories of people that told me how much of a lifeline that it was for them, and that they were able to remain sober, that they were able to keep, their mental health under control, like while they were navigating the pandemic. So that at that point is really when it became such a mission for me to know that I was meant to be in spaces where I could create these communities for people, these lifelines for people. And now I love going and talking to other companies about how can we create this same type of environment where people feel like they can come as they are and leave as more of who they are, and really have a culture of connection, so that collectively we can build this culture and this disconnection epidemic that so many are experiencing since the pandemic, and really even before that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the pandemic maybe just made it more obvious in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
'Cause you had to work harder to also connect with people, but I do think it pointed out a lot of the issues that we were
Well, and one
having.
thing
Yeah.
that it did is it created a lot more research. So a lot of people,
Mhm.
have started to become more aware because everyone was talking about it. When everyone had to be alone, now, we're trying to find new ways to stay connected while we're physically separated. And it became, no longer the elephant in the room. It was like everybody could
Yeah.
see what was going on. The different organizations started doing more research around it, like the World Health Organization. Now they're saying, okay, this is a global crisis. We know this is something that we have to address. The US Surgeon General released a report, saying that loneliness is more dangerous to our health than smoking 15 cigarettes a day,
I
and that
I
it's
believe
affecting
that. Yes,
60% of the
yes.
population. So that
Wow.
that really created a space for people like me that we're already talking about connection. We're already talking about the importance of it for corporations and event organizers and people to say, yeah, this is actually a conversation we need to bring to this stage. This is a conversation we need to bring a little more front and center because of the awareness around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that mental health piece too is so interesting, and I feel like it got talked about more than I've ever heard during the pandemic. but I do feel like it's not as much now because we have a lot of other stuff being talked about now, like,
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff, but it's still being focused on more than it was, which I feel like is one of the wins from the pandemic, for
For
sure.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always say, like, when we face challenges like that, it was such a difficult time, but there were things that we could look at that were beautiful that came out of it in terms of, like you said, the conversations that we're having and just the fact that we all, in a way, felt more connected because we were all experiencing the same thing. And that
Mhm.
kind of helped us to realize, what, everybody's going through something. So we can feel that way kind of all the time because we know that everyone's dealing with something. So if we can look at people and see that human element of connection and kind of hold on to that piece of that experience, that's helpful. And now it's shifting more into, okay, well, now post pandemic, we're in this digital age that is just taking off. And so we're connecting almost more, but it's a lot of it's online. So how do we speak to connect with one another online? How do we use the technologies that we have to actually become
Yeah.
closer together and not further apart?
Yeah. Those are all great questions. Any answers to those 2? How do we do that? How do we do that, Kara?
Well, workshops with me. But really, truly, there are opportunities for companies in digital space to say, let's take time out to actually have a conversation around connection on Zoom or in person, either one. But let's actually take some time to be intentional about,
Yeah.
are we talking about how we can connect and collaborate, and those are great opportunities, and that's actually some of the work that I do with my workshops with companies.
And I feel like any companies that are like, "Oh, that's just one of those things. I don't need to worry about that. I'm just worried about the bottom line." I think that is the bottom line. When you think about jobs or workplaces that you stayed at that have this amazing loyalty and culture, at least for me when I worked in a team setting, it was having that sense of connection that was fostered by whoever the leaders were through, having, like, community events and, maybe volunteering together and, like, doing certain things that were beyond the job description. What are some of the moments or some of the things that you've seen kind of come from these workshops, this work that you're doing to help build connection? Like, what are some of the impact what's some of the specific impact, I guess, is what I'm asking that you've
Well,
seen?
yeah, and if you think about numbers, let's go back to what you said about ROI.
Yeah.
There are billions of dollars being lost every year due to employee disengagement and attrition and loneliness. So the numbers are there. If someone really wants to look and say, what is it costing me to
Yeah.
not have happy employees, to not have people that are feeling healthy and connected? We talk a lot about, health benefits at work. So you think about physical health benefits. Even a lot of companies are like, okay, we know mental health is important. So we offer a mental health program, but they leave out that third part, which is
Yeah.
social health. And we
Yeah.
have to have all three in order to be, really fully supported as humans. So social health really should be considered a part of the health benefits of any company, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Remember, I worked recently with, you asked me like a specific example. I got a chance to do speech last month or in November for a company that I think you're probably familiar with, Luma Brighter Learning. I believe
Yay!
Dr.
Yes,
Gina was one of our
Doctor
guests on this podcast recently.
Gina, she was part of one of our, community events.
I had the opportunity to spend 3 days with her team because I had a keynote speech in one day of their conference, but she is so wonderful and invited me and my
Yes.
husband to come and spend really the whole weekend with them. And it was so interesting because to me, she's one of the corporations out here that, and really in a space that, they're a technology company, they work in trucking industry, both
Yeah.
kind of places where you might not expect connect and
No.
love to show up
Yeah,
so
not to the
strongly.
extent they do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what it's done though is, I sat there and I talked to so many different people from different levels of the company, from the graphic designer to, the C-suite to just the clients. And the sense of connection was so strong with all of their employees. You could tell it felt like one big family. And look, she even gave me this when I was there.
Wow.
And it is
She
a
is the
emotional support
best.
plant.
She's got the best stuff. Yeah.
Things like this are, somebody might think that that's silly, but I'm like, okay, first of all, I love it. It's on my desk. Secondly, she gave a gift, very separate gift to every single one of the people in her team. And it was just showing that she thought about them specifically, something that they would love, something that would make them feel cared for. And these are little types of things that show up. But what's happened on the bottom line? Well, they're in the, Inc. 5,000 for 4 years straight or 3 or 4 years straight.
Yeah,
So the bottom line does transfer when you build something based in connection. Um,
absolutely.
so
Yeah,
I can't take any of the credit for that. That was really, all of her doing because she brought me in because we were really so aligned. But that's just a really great example of a company showing that, yes, you can lead from connection and also show how that impacts you becoming a fast growing company because people want to work in
they do.
places where
Yeah,
they feel welcomed.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's easier to keep employees than having to constantly hire more and more. There's all kinds of studies on all of that. So, yeah, absolutely. And she's
Yeah.
such a great example. Like, I can't think of a better example, honestly, of living that than her. She's amazing at that.
Yeah. And recently I did another workshop that was completely digital. We did 3 months, like 1 hour a month. We came together and we talked about our public speaking. And what's interesting is a lot of companies understand, the need for communications trainings, especially now that we are connecting online, sometimes that can make it even a little more challenging
Yeah,
to truly connect. And so there's things you can do in practice in order to become really effective at your communications, both in person and online. But the byproduct of that is also the team coming together and working on something like that really improves team communications as well.
hmm,
And, we can create an opportunity for people to say, look, we value your opinion. We want to have a culture of you're welcome, your voice is welcome, but a lot of people don't feel comfortable in sharing their voice. A lot of people don't know, well, how do I go to the team and share my idea? That could actually be really challenging. So even if you have the intention of welcoming that, when you add on that layer of here is how to do it, gives them not only, the idea that their ideas are welcome, but then the tools of how to share their ideas at work. And that has also had a huge impact on, the companies that I work with.
that's, yeah, I couldn't have said that better if I tried. Beautiful. Love that. And it's
I know I'm
also,
going off script here, Emily. I don't know where we are in the questions.
no, don't worry about that. I don't even, yeah, we're off script. That's fine. I love a good script, but I also love going off. That means we're connecting, right? That's
That's
what's
right.
happening here. We're truly, truly connecting.
That's right.
I do want to shift it a little bit into more of the public speaking and the work that you do with that, and just talk a little bit about that and how you especially help a lot of women find their voice. Now, this podcast is not just about women, even though I'm a woman, you're a woman. I love men. I don't just work with women. But women especially, we do need that support. I don't think that we've had as much of that, especially for getting up on stage and having those opportunities. So, why is it so personal to you, to help women find their
Mm.
voice, express their voice, have a stage?
Yeah, for me, it is personal because for the first 20 something years of my life, I did not know how to use my voice in the way that I do now. I had very low self-esteem. I had very low view of myself, and I would never ever think that I would be someone that would end up on stages, let alone be someone that helps other people get on stages.
Yeah.
So for me personally, and again, why? Because I listened to enough women doing it. I watched other people and I thought maybe there was a seed of desire there of like, maybe I could, even, but I didn't know how. And then when you look at the business, like you mentioned, there aren't a lot of opportunities, or there's plenty of opportunities, but there's less women being booked than men, right? And the pay is not equal either. There's no surprise there. Like, yeah, less than 30% of paid public speakers are women, which is one of the reasons I love working with. You'll see that I collaborate with Mic Drop Workshop. That's their mission, is to really help get more paid speaking spots for women. So I love collaborating with them on programs. it's personal, but it's also I look at business, and speaking is one of the best ways to get out there your ideas and your products. And if you're not, you can be the best at something, but it's the best known that actually get booked for work. And so you have to be able to learn how to put yourself, in front of a group of people and share your ideas and your thoughts. And I absolutely have fallen in love with coaching speakers, and I do coach men and women, but especially, I run a TEDx women, so we have our of our female speakers there, and I love helping them go from, is this idea worth sharing, to standing on that red dot or standing on that stage and confidently sharing their ideas with the world. It's a very empowering.
And speaking of empowering, do you ever wish you could like travel time and show your younger self who you are today? Because I think about that and I was so shy and scared of things. If I could like show that'd probably mess everything up, like warp time or whatever. But, you know, it'd be such a cool thing to be able to say, look, you overcame all these fears. You're helping other people. Like, what do you think your younger self would say if you could do that?
Think my younger self would look at my younger sister, and my younger sister would look at me and be like, told you so.
Oh,
'Cause
okay.
yeah. Yeah, like, I think the people around you sometimes believe in you more than you do, and sometimes you have to borrow the belief of other people until you believe it yourself, and so, I think I kinda kept doing that until I got to where I am. But, yeah, I would love to do that. Unfortunately, we don't have a time machine, but what I do try to do is I think about that with my future self.
Yeah.
So, when I'm thinking about whatever the next big thing is that I wanna reach for, and that, that thought creeps in of, "Well, are you enough to do that thing?" Yes, you did all this other stuff. You survived all of this. You have all this, resilience around this, but could you really do that? That's when I try to think about my younger self and think, well, she wouldn't have believed that I'd be here. So that's where I try to convince my current self, absolutely. Why not? Why not go for it?
And I feel like going through very hard seasons of life and learning from them and even coming out stronger, better, all the things, it gives you kind of a superpower of being fearless in a way. And let me explain that a little bit. I feel like for me, I am still afraid to do things. I get nervous every time I launch any new initiative, every time I get booked for any large, stage type experience.
Hmm.
I know I can do scary things. That doesn't worry me because I've proven that over and over again. And once you've done something incredibly scary in your personal life too, that gives you this just overwhelming confidence that, hey, if it's scary, it's okay. I can still do it. Do
Yeah.
you kind of feel like that too? Like, talk to me about that.
And I feel like action breeds confidence. And I used to think that confidence was something that people arrived at, that they would just achieve competence at some point and then they could just go and be confident in everything that they're doing. But what I've learned in my life is that really confidence is a byproduct of action. So, at least for me, it is. So, when I want to do something, it's once I start doing the thing, then the confidence will arrive. Then the confidence will show up around it. And I have to be willing to take that step whether or not I'm feeling confident in the moment. And just figure it out. I think success is really about how many times you're willing to just move forward and say, I'll figure it out, and, do whatever you need to do and learn. And then you gain a little more confidence, and then you take the next step. And I think that confidence, just like self-love, just like connection, is a practice. It's not a place that we arrive at. It's just something that we have to continue to cultivate.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I do feel like a lot of people hold themselves back because they're always waiting to feel completely ready or they need everything to be perfect, and it never will be. There's never going to be a perfect time. You're never going to have an event where everything's absolutely perfect. Something always goes wrong. Even with my podcast, I swear I have a technical issue every time. Every time I try to do a podcast or any type of event. But what you said, the essence of that is kind of where I hope people get that out of this. And it's where my heart is too. Like, I don't wait to start something. I just do it. And then the more you do it and the more you see that you are successful, even if you don't have it figured out from the start, the more I feel like you get more bold and empowered to do even more. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think, coming back to love means business. I think that when you can think about taking those actions from a place of love,
Mhm.
it's from a place of service. And who are you helping? Why are you doing this thing? I think when we focus on the why, and the who, like, why are we doing it? Who is this for? How can I help? Those are questions that take you out of yourself. And that is really what helps you to have the confidence to at least start. And then maybe you can, keep taking those next steps. But anytime that I get into my imposter syndrome or I start to think about, am I not doing this well? I drop back into thinking about who am I helping? Why is this important? And then I just take the next step. It's as simple as that.
Let's talk about your TEDx Sugar Creek journey.
Yes.
So, you mentioned already what inspired you to start it,
Hmm.
but talk to me a little bit more about what makes it different than other TEDx experiences. And I know TEDx it's, a very powerful brand. You have certain things you have to do. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like what are some things that since you got into this, you're like, wow, this is different than I thought it would be. And then
Yes.
also some things that you have some, creative freedom with.
Sure. I started, I talked about my mission of, helping women, but I also really just am a true TEDx nerd. I have been listening to TEDx talks for a decade. I'm the mom that like makes her kids listen to TEDx talks in the car. And now they sometimes they're like, oh, I've heard this one already. But I love learning and I love like that the idea of TED being this place where, just all ideas are welcome and it's very inclusive and you can learn so many things just listening to these talks. And so, that's really where my TED journey started was just really in liking kind of the idea of it. And then I was as a speaker because first and foremost before I started coaching or producing these events, I was just a keynote speaker and workshop facilitator and I thought, yeah, maybe I'd like to give a TEDx talk. And so I was like, let me learn a little more about it. I started volunteering and learning the ropes. And I worked with a few different events. And along the way, in fact, the organizer that the day that you gave your TEDx talk, she said to me, no one's ever done a TEDx Women in Charlotte. And we've had them here for like a decade.
Mhm.
So that was a seed that was planted. And that's where the TEDx Women came from. So that's the one thing that makes ours different from all of the other TEDx's in town, because we do have several. Ours is the only women event. And so with that has being an organizer is really what helped me learn what all these other organizers are looking for because now I'm in a
Mhm.
community of a bunch of organizers and we talk about this stuff all the time. So now I'm sort of starting to take some of that information and translate it again to who I would expect to be like, what would my younger self want to know if I was looking at
Yeah.
trying to get a TEDx talk
Yeah.
5 years ago? What would I do differently? And now I'm just trying to share that information with other speakers who my one talk ended up turning into an entire event, which is another story. A lot of people ask me, "Where's your TEDx talk?" And I stepped into the producing role before I ever did a TEDx talk. So I don't have a TEDx talk. I took my theme for my talk and made it an entire event, and now we're continuing that with our second year. It's sort of difficult to do both at the same time, I'll say. I'm
Yeah.
loving producing and coaching now other speakers on what to know. So a couple of, the tips that I would give to if someone's actually interested in looking at, giving a TEDx talk is that really the thing that separates TEDx talks from other types of talks like keynotes and workshops is that it's really about your idea. And you
Mhm.
and I actually did a session on this
We
back.
did a panel event, yes, and
You gave
explored
me the
all about it.
name. You gave me the idea for the name Red Dot Ready, and you said, "Hey, you should use this red dot ready name." And so I did. We actually hosting a little Red Dot Ready cohort in the next
Yay!
couple of months of just speakers that really want to learn all of those different tips and tricks you need to know that make a TEDx talk different from all of these other, potential speaking opportunities. So focusing on an idea is the main thing, and storytelling will show up in TEDx talks, but really the stories have to be in service of the idea. So the idea comes first, and then you can tell your story to support the idea, essentially.
Yes, and anyone that's listening or watching this, the event we did was Red Dot Ready, and I can't remember the other part of the title, but it was a panel of different people, me, you, and Brian LaFontaine, who all had experiences with TEDx, and we gave a lot of really good tips on how to get a TEDx talk, what do you do after you get one, and then leveraging it. Because I think that's also a big miss for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Get a TEDx talk, and then they think that, I don't know, it's just gonna overnight transform them, and then it does happen with some people, they go viral, like, instantly, and it transforms them, but I feel like even with those, you have to have a plan of what are you gonna do with this talk? Like, how are you going to use this as a springboard for something else? So let's talk
Yeah,
a little bit about that too, like,
sure.
what
Yeah,
are
our
some of
first
the
event
successes?
already has surpassed 1 million views, but it had to start with marketing the talks. So
Mhm.
the speakers that have 100,000 views, 200,000 views, 1 million views from our event that happened just 6 or so months ago, the ones that have the large amount of views are the ones that marketed their talk
Yeah,
heavily. And so you do have to get it out there at a certain point because there's 40 million subscribers. Once it starts to kind of take off, it actually gets marketed more by the platform itself.
okay.
Once it hits a certain level, and then that's where it can sort of go viral, if you will. But a talk doesn't have to go viral to be helpful for you. And I never say like going viral is the goal. The goal is number one, getting your idea out there. But it really is a great business card, essentially. If you are trying to be
Mhm.
a public speaker and you want to start a movement or get a book deal, whatever it is, you need to use that talk to send to other people to watch because it's the best of your idea in 10 minutes that you could share. So that's going to
Yeah,
translate way more than, just an email would. That's really what the goal of, I think, for most people of having a TEDx talk should be is how am I going to use it to promote whatever it is that, I want to build, whether that's a movement or whether that's a business. That's where it's on you to actually share it. And so when my speakers are preparing for their talk, I already am telling them start your email list if you don't have one, start, letting people know I'm writing this talk. I'm about to give the talk. I'm going to share it with you. Do you want to be the first to see it? So people start to engage with, the mission of your talk and you can start marketing it really before it even happens. So the people that do that have the highest, level of views. But, keep in mind that they're not getting paid for those views on YouTube. That's
right.
really just an opportunity for them to share their idea. And there's a lot of different factors that go into it, making sure that you're working with an event that has a good production quality and things like that can also help with your view count. And there's tricks on how you title the talk to make it really appealing for people to click on and lots of different things you can know. But ultimately, none of those things will matter if you're not the one that's the most passionate about it to push it out there into the world.
Yeah, that's so true, and we talked a lot about that. I think that you absolutely shouldn't do it just for views, and some people, they do. I think they do it to just they want that notoriety, and nothing wrong with wanting notoriety, but there's a kind of like purity with the TED brand and TEDx of wanting it to be educational, wanting it to contribute to the overall greater good and knowledge. And I love that. That's what appeals to me too about it is just the beauty of learning and growing and being so passionate about your idea, you can't contain it. You got to share it with the world.
Yes, and it's also really hard to give a
Yeah.
TEDx
Yeah.
talk. And there's a lot of, as you know, work that goes into it. It has to be memorized. And the shorter the talk, the longer it takes to write it, it seems. And so you have to really know that if you're going to give a TEDx talk, it's a journey. There's a huge amount of personal transformation that will happen. And I think it'd be worth it for anyone to do that. But don't do it unless you know like there's just something you have to get out there. And like you said, that's really the best motivation to give a TEDx talk.
All right, I wanna end this before we do the actual closing here with I like to do a rapid fire. It's a new thing I've
Oh,
started.
okay.
I think it'll be fun with you. Uh, I think. We'll see. I don't know. So just answer this the first thing that comes to your mind, like one
Okay.
sentence, okay?
One sentence. Okay.
It's gonna be this is hard. Connection is fill in the blank.
Intentional.
Beautiful.
We have what I call umbrella connections. When you
Okay.
are taking someone and helping them under an umbrella, you can only effectively fit one person under your umbrella at a time. And so if you think about conversations that way, when we are trying to talk to lots of different people at one time, we're not going to have any deep individual connections. But when we stop and we are intentional and give our full attention to one person at a time and really deeply listen to one person and give them the most radical gift we can give them in this distracted world is our full attention. That is what creates real connection. And so it takes a lot of intention to do that. So you have to be really intentional about choosing one person to give your attention to, and that will create deep connections. And that was not one sentence.
Yeah, you're failing this rapid fire thing already, but that's okay because it was such a great answer. Okay,
Okay, I'll
let's
try to be short.
do 2 more.
Okay.
Leadership today requires fill in the blank.
Leadership today requires people to create opportunities for in person connection.
Perfect. Okay. The most misunderstood communication skill is fill in the blank.
Public speaking.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it really is.
Everyone is a public speaker.
They
So,
can be. They're just terrified. People are so scared of
yes.
doing it.
Yeah, they're
Okay. I'm not even I wanna end it with that because I feel like mic drop moment, not to, throw that in there, but absolutely is. And today for me, I always leave, our conversations really just feeling positive, inspired. I love how you just go after stuff. And I hope everyone that's watching and listening feels inspired by you like I am and knows that if there's something in your heart that you want to do, you can do it. We're giving you, if you need permission, we're giving that to you right now. We're saying love does mean business. So take something you love, take something you're passionate about, and don't be afraid to take that first step, even if you don't have it figured out. You can make it successful. You can make it an amazing business. A lot of hard work, a lot of intention, a lot of connection and community building. So I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. Make sure that you're subscribing, liking, following us on all the platforms, and share this. Share this conversation with someone that maybe needs a little bit more motivation, a little more community, needs that, extra push to do what they really love. And make sure and tune in next time and keep loving, learning, and leveling up. Bye.
bye.